Hey guys, quick update on the loft out here. Not much has happened. My babies from this roller pair here are getting a bit bigger. I had my first F1 frill stencil roller hatch from this pair today. See, it's a little, and don't want to do that. It's a little bitty thing with a teeny tiny beak. The thing's so small, I kind of dropped it there, but only an inch, so we're good. Not much else has happened. You remember, they've got one egg, they've got two. That pair down there is one. That roller pair there has two now. I probably should write down on the calendar. This baby again is doing pretty good. It's a pretty strong flyer. It's flying up here by itself. Pretty strong flyer for its age. I want to say that's its dad there. This time of day it ought to be. Yeah, it's its dad sitting there on the nest. These blue bar babies are doing well. They haven't started building a nest in here, their parents, yet with the pine needles to lay a second pair of eggs. Hopefully that'll happen soon. And we got this pair, black hen, blue bar cock down here with eggs. And this ash red homer here is getting bigger, looking real nice. Still can't see real well because I've got it sitting in the shadow. Loft's casting shadow. But today we're headed over to the clubhouse for an old bird race. So y'all are gonna, right now is old bird season. I just don't have but a handful of old birds and they're not trained to race. So right now they're pretty much just breeders. So of course I'm not racing old birds. I plan on racing old birds next year, so we'll go through that together next spring. But for right now we are going to head to the clubhouse and you are going to get to see what's going on there. Of course the release is not at the clubhouse, so you won't be able to see that. But we'll go over how the old bird races work and some of the ways they can be more fun than young bird races. Some of the strategies involved. There's a bit more strategy in old bird racing than there is young bird racing. The young birds are pretty crazy, but the old birds, you can incite them to come home earlier. So see y'all when I get there. I'm taking y'all with me today. Alright guys, so now we're over here at the club, and I've got Jeff, the race secretary, with me. Got him, he's going to explain to us some about how the score sheets work, because they're always been a little confusing to me myself. And then some of the good things about old birds, because even though I know a bit about it, I haven't done it yet. So I got an expert.
Well, anything I say, Dustin, is just going to be my opinion on things, and I'm sure you've already figured out in pigeon racing, there's an opinion for just about everybody who races. So, you know, I can tell you what I think, but, you know, you talk to somebody else, you may get a different story.
I have a YouTube channel now. I was definitely start figuring that out. So.
Well, biggest, go ahead.
So how about we start with, how's the old bird races different from the young bird?
Well, generally speaking, in my case, old birds, of course, is anything that basically you have in your loft. Young bird racing is for birds that are born the year that you're racing. For instance, this September we'll start racing young birds in September for anything that's a 2017 ban, anything you've banned this year. Old birds, once the next year rolls around, it's any bird you got. I've seen people race 7, 8-year-old birds, yearlings. It runs the gamut. So, what you generally get when it comes to old birds is people know their birds better. In my case, there's certain birds that I can just about guarantee will be home first. Now, that doesn't mean they're going to win the race, but they'll probably be the first bird in my lot.
Yeah.
Because once they get a couple years on them, you learn which birds are going to go long distance, short distance. You know, I've got some birds that, you know, unless it's something crazy happens, I'm about guaranteed the ones that's going to be in the loft first.
So yeah, like I was telling you guys, the young birds, they're all crazy, but the old birds are set in their ways. You kind of know what's going to happen with them.
Right. Young birds I've heard described as teenagers. You know, they just kind of get out there. A lot of times they'll flock together. So if you have a particular race where somebody's birds are doing good, they may pull the young birds with them.
Yeah.
They like I said, they'll flock more. So if the weather's bad and they turn and go one direction, almost all of them will. It's not a guarantee. Sometimes some will break away, but generally, and it's hard to pick a young bird that's going to win the race or be the first, in my case, be the first one back. You know, the ones I think are going to do good don't. The ones I don't think are going to do good do. you just don't know, especially when they're young. There's a lot of variables on young bird racing.
You just throw some in a basket and you go.
Well, you know, breeding affects them. You know which ones you want to race, and you know,
pick out a group.
Sure, if you've got good breeders, and you can tell, but there's a lot of things that influence a young bird. Old birds, especially if you know, I fly the natural system, don't fly with a hood. You know, I like to get my old birds sitting on eggs. You get old birds sitting on eggs, that's a good incentive to get home.
Yeah.
A cock bird who's got about a week or two old babies is super good at coming home.
Yeah.
You know, he knows he's got a job to do. And again, that's where you know your birds. And they got to get older before you can do that.
Yeah, and I've got old birds, even though I haven't flown old bird races, I've got old birds in my loft now. I know who's going to take better care there.
Yeah.
Their squads, who's going to do what.
Yeah, I can't say too much about widow hood. I'm not a widow hood racer. Don't know. I mean, I've read some things on it. I don't know much about it, but
I'll explain to you guys what widow hood is after I get back home. We'll go over that. I just don't have personal experience with it. I'll explain what it is.
yeah, when old birds, also you do run the problem, and I've heard this described as old birds, especially if they don't have the incentives such as eggs or young birds, or you're flying widow hood. If they've been to a race station many times, when they come out of the shipping crate, they pretty much know where they're at.
Yeah.
They know what it's going to take to get home, and I've heard people say that they tend to pace themselves,
Yeah.
you know, because they know where they're at and they know where they're going. Then
landmarks.
that's where you want. That's the difference between homers and racers. That's where you want birds who are going to race home,
Yeah.
and then there are homers who they're going to come home every week, but you know you want the birds that's going to race home.
Yeah.
So that's what we're doing now is old birds.
Yeah. So, how about these score sheets?
Got one right here. This is our last week. I don't know if this is last week's race. I don't know if you can see that. I don't know.
I'll take a picture of it and put it on the video.
But generally, all of this is figured on a computer program called WindSpeed.
I've got because that thing will shut off after 10 minutes. My viewers know that because I tell them every video. I will go ahead and restart it. I'll bring it over here. Otherwise, it'll cut off while we're talking, and we won't realize it. Go to look at it and
Sure.
have to redo it all over again. And guys, these are our shipping crates that we've got the birds in. And this time we had 20, but I think 20 is a little crowded. Jeff, you were thinking the same thing, weren't you? Yeah. But the guy who drives the truck is in charge of it, isn't he?
Yes.
He is, so. But they'll be fine. Just I think it's a little much. Get our TRC crates, stick them in here. They're divided. We had.
Well, that door down show how they release so they can knock them out.
Yeah, and the door's released this way. You got the little piece of wood on each side sticking out so it won't go in. They all get released that way, and we got a little door here for putting them in so they can't get out while we're putting them in for races. And these are divided. They get let out from each side of the truck, or in this case it's just going to be a trailer. They're divided in the middle. We had, for our old bird races, hens on this side, cocks on this side. For young bird races, it doesn't really matter the gender, does it?
Some do, we don't.
Yeah, I mean you can. It doesn't really matter. It's harder to tell anyways then. And guys, I brought Bentley along.
But it's important for all birds to separate the cocks and the hens.
Yep. Well, why don't you tell us why real quick before we look at score sheets?
Well, especially if you happen to get a hen in with a bunch of cockbirds, they will drive her and peck at her and really just wear her out before she ever gets a chance to race. So cockbirds will tend to fight amongst themselves, but if you throw a hen in there, just as if you throw one cockbird in with a bunch of hens, he's going to wear himself out trying to show off to all of them. So,
yeah.
And most people, if they're shipping pairs, they don't want them together anyway. They want them separated so that might entice them to come.
They don't.
Fast.
We don't want them to know their mate's not home either.
Some people say they find each other, and they may, but they're released separately so they're not together when they're.
I've seen birds flying around my loft that'll stay close to each other. I'll see a mated pair. It'll go after its mate, and they tend to stay together.
Yep. If we have and we've occasionally had A and B races, two separate releases. Most people will ship hens on one, cocks on the other, keeping them separate.
Yep. Yeah, we don't want them knowing their mate's not at home. They think their mate's at home.
The incentive, you know, especially if a hen or cockbird is separated, that natural desire to get back to their mate is a strong incentive.
Which again, you can't really do much with young birds.
Correct.
Which I've got my breeding loft set up for flying widowhood next year for old birds. Do you know of anyone else here that flies widowhood? Or is everyone natural?
Combine that do, but I can't say anybody in the club for sure. I know some of them have experimented
Yeah.
with it, and they may be, George or somebody may be, but I don't know. I couldn't say for sure.
Well, maybe I'll get the better of everybody with widowhood next year.
I know George
Who knows?
shipped all cocks tonight, so
He did.
maybe that's a sign. I
Yeah.
don't know.
Yeah, probably. But the only thing about widowhood is you can't fly your hens.
True. Yeah.
So you kind of gotta make sacrifice. When you have a lot of birds, you can make that sacrifice.
True,
But
yeah.
I don't, so we'll see.
All right,
We'll
you're
take a
good.
look at these score sheets.
This is a report from our last week's race. Of course, TRC Old Bird 17. All this is figured on a computer. Of course, you have to have a loft survey, which is used with which you get from GPS. You go out and get a GPS location from the loft, and then the trailer where the hauler releases the birds also has a GPS location. That's where you get the mileage. This shows everybody's mileage from the race station, which is Bishopville, South Carolina. Always prints on here. So each person will have their mileage when their first bird is on the sheet. That's his mileage. And then you go down to the next person, which is right here.
Yep.
Torres Loft, 72 miles. And then you can search it on out. Grady was 108. Rick Smith. Oh, Grady's 87. Rick was 108. Lucky Loft was 103. So it shows you everybody's mileage. Then you have the flyer's name, and it doesn't necessarily have to be a name. It's however you want it printed. Do drop in, Tory's Loft, this person, these people just want their name. However you want to do it, that's how it's put in there. You got the loft name, the band number of the bird that clocked, color, hens or cocks. This is the time the bird arrived at the loft, and that's done electronically with electronic clocking devices. So you have a release time. This is how many birds was in the race, how many lofts was in the race, and of course, like I said, that's the station. So you take this bird clocked in at 8:56:52 from 64.343 miles, and that gives you a yards per minute, and that's who wins the race. It's all based on yards per minute. So this bird winner was 1,303.471, and if you'll notice, he got 10 birds on the drop. And if you
That means he's doing pretty good.
well, yeah, those birds all come in together, and if you'll notice, these two actually clocked at exactly the same time, but there's seconds in between them. Sometimes that's
Yeah.
Now there is cases where we've had people where the birds, two different lofts have clocked almost exactly the same time. So you can win or lose a pigeon race by seconds. This is the second place bird, or second place loft, 11th bird, and he was 19 seconds from winning the race. That's what this to win means. It's a little confusing because it's all based on mileage, so sometimes somebody will be look a little strange, but the basic premise is if he would have clocked 20 seconds earlier, he probably would have won the race.
Yeah.
That's how close that was. They don't always come in, especially once you get a little further out. This is our first race, so this is what we would call a short race. They call it 100 miles, but you can see 64 miles, sometimes you'll get them grouping up like that. The further you go, the more spread out you get.
Yeah. Now, it was a 100-mile race, but with someone, they were getting their birds in at only 64.
Right.
Do you think that's really that much of an advantage or disadvantage?
Well,
between the closest and furthest loft?
That's a question that is constantly asked every year from different people. It's called overfly.
Yep.
For instance, we actually had somebody whose distance was only 52 miles, I believe. He's on here somewhere. But anyway, the point is, pigeon racing used to not be that spread out, but now it is. So our furthest person, I believe, was 108 miles, and our shortest person is going to be 52. So it's always a question. You would think the person who was closest would probably do better.
Yeah.
There's a lot of variables. Depends on wind, depends on how well your birds are trained. It depends on a lot of things. But some people don't like the idea of he's racing 64 miles, he's racing against somebody that's 108 miles.
Yeah.
But with the way things are there, you just have to do it.
It's not like we get a choice.
That's right. If you're going to race, you're going to have to deal with that kind
Whether
of
you
thing.
like it or not, that's how
what my experience has been, and this has just been my experience, a good bird will trump distance no matter what.
And to be honest, they get let out from different directions. It's not always west, it's not always east or anything.
Well, once we start a season, it's always pretty much like we'll go south all year this year. Yeah.
Oh, I was thinking you'd go from different directions,
No.
which would even it out because you might be further away this race.
Yeah, and there's been discussions about that, but it hurts to train. In other words, if you race from one direction, then that's the way you start training, and you train from one direction. If you're jumping all around, you have to train from all four directions.
I train from all four directions anyways, so.
Yeah.
I mean, I just think it's better to have them.
Probably a good idea.
Yeah. And it's a little more difficult, and it's a little more time consuming, but down the road, got older birds. I mean, they're not going to fly just one season, so.
Yeah. Most people would tell you that a fast race benefits the shorter people.
Yeah.
If it's a good speed, and that's a fairly good speed, 1,300. You know, we've had them race 1,500, 1,600, but that's a good for the first race, first time they've been together, this group, and let out. That's good speed. And most people will tell you that fast races benefit the short person, but the harder to race benefit the longer people.
Yeah.
So, and it, like I said, it depends on the weather. If you get a tailwind, which is pushing behind a bird, some people say that benefits the short person. If you get a headwind facing them, it's a tougher race, that benefits the long people. Short people would tell you it's not fair because their birds have to break quicker. In other words, the birds are all coming in a flock. 8 different lofts. Well, from our combine, it was 40 different lofts, all coming in one direction. They stay together until they start hitting the first lofts, and then those first lofts have to break away. And so the shorter guys will tell you it's not really fair for them because their birds have to learn to break quicker. Because the further you go, the less birds are flying together in the flock. So it's easier for them to break off the further they go.
Yeah.
So it's all theory. It's all theory.
Especially if your lofts are close together. I'm 5 miles from Rick, 5 miles from Scott, right in between. Our birds are all going to have to be trying to break away in about a 10-mile.
That goes back to the young bird too. Young birds, like I said, tend to flock together. So if you get a group of lofts pretty close together,
if they're not breaking up well, they're all going to end up at Scott's loft.
Well, but they would tend to stay together, going in the same direction, which is better for old birds. A lot of times, one bird, if he's set up right and he's ready to go, he'll break away and come home. Well, in fact, let me show you something.
All right. Bentley's still hanging out. Here's our TRC crying towel. Whoever's last place gets this towel. It's their award.
That was our club report. This is the combine report. 41 lofts, 673 birds. This was our first guy. This was his speed. And look here, one bird from this guy beat him by 36 seconds. One bird from this guy.
That's fine. Well, Jeff's on the phone real quick. Here's Bentley. Bentley came with me today. Oh, come here. Most pigeons don't get to be loose in the club. All right, well, I kind of need to be leaving. Jeff needs to be leaving. We're the last ones here, so we're going to close up shop. But there's a little bit on old bird races, and again, you'll get to go through young bird races with me and everything. At some point, I'll have it in camera in here while we're basking birds. There's a bit more going on. Just didn't today because it's so busy. But then again, I got away with bringing a little pigeon who's running around everywhere, so I don't know. But thanks for watching, guys. All right, guys, so it's actually the next day now. It was yesterday, Saturday evening, we were at the club. But on the way home from the club, I wound up getting called into work. So this morning, I'll explain to y'all about widowhood and double widowhood. But while I'm out here, I will say I've got this satin neck cock that I had been keeping in my non-breeding loft. I finally let it out this morning. Haven't actually tried to get it to go back in, but I'm not particularly concerned about it. For those of you that are wondering about trap training, yeah, see, I'm not really worried about losing it. All I did was stick it through that trap every time I would put the birds back in after letting them be out and about. I always put it in that little black cage while I was letting the birds fly, walk around, whatever they want to do. I'm not really making them fly. Some of them can't fly good anyways. One's a white king. But I would just stick it through that trap, and then I would start sitting it on the landing board. I'd just kind of keep my hands over it to where it couldn't try and fly or get away, and it would just go straight through that trap. And I did that for a little while, and that's all I really had to do. And with a satin net, and probably just about any fancy bird, that'll work okay. But I wouldn't recommend trying that with homers or rollers. You'll wind up losing them that way. I'll go over training the homers and the rollers. Once I get enough out that I start flying them. I will be moving out my moving my homer young birds out here soon. I'm not sure exactly when. I might give them another week or so. I could really go ahead and do it, but I just haven't. The younger they are, the easier they are to trap train. You know, to a point, of course. You don't want to try and trap train a 20-day-old squab, but you know what I mean. So, my breeding loft here, I actually built it for the purpose of racing widowhood in old birds, and it's just what I'm using to breed right now. So I actually step in here to explain things to y'all, so you can see what I'm talking about. So, the whole point of widowhood and double widowhood is to motivate the old birds with their mate, because they want to mate. So, the way it works, all these have nests in them, so it's going to be kind of hard to show you. The way it works is after you start training and get the birds flying good and all that, these boxes right here are dividable. Here, let me move you for a second. You won't like this very much. Yeah. She's sitting on babies, not eggs, so I'm not too worried about it. But these doors actually come in like that to separate this half right here. And you would put a hen in here and get the cockbird to mate up with it. And then you give him a nest right here. And you take that hen away, and then every time you fly him and he comes back in, you put the hen in here. And so every time he comes in here, he gets to see his hen. Well, once you start doing training tosses, or at least this is the way I'm going to do it, it can be done a little bit differently. So there's a little bit of variation to this. But after you start doing training tosses, when he gets back from training tosses, you actually open this thing up all the way and let him have complete access to his hen, let them snuggle on their nest, mate, preen, whatever they want to do. And if you're doing training tosses in the evening, then I would just let them stay together all evening, and then I would take the hen away in the morning. And that basically is all that you do. Use this drive to mate to motivate him to get home. The biggest disadvantage to racing widowhood is you're only flying cocks and not hens. And if your best racing bird is a hen, that's of course a problem. And then double widowhood is where you mate two cocks up to the same hen. First, you do it just like you would widowhood, but then you take that first cock away and you put a second cock and fly him widowhood with the same hen. And then you switch back to the first one and let the second one keep it in a cage or something, let it see the other cock coming in to mate with its hen. They'll usually go back together pretty quickly, and you just kind of take turns letting them be with the hen when they come in, and you always make sure to let them see it. That way when they're flying home from the race, they know that if they don't get home first, that other cock is going to be with their hen when they get back. And boy, do they not like that. And that can be an even bigger advantage and get them to race home even faster. Or both cocks could get home at the exact same time and then just about fight to the death on top of your loft. Not literally to the death, of course. Pigeons aren't that violent, but they won't go in the trap. They'll just be up there fighting and fighting because they hate each other. So if they don't get home at the same time, that system could work out really well. If they do get home at the same time, you're going to have a big mess on your hands. So that's what those are. And again, natural system is like if this pigeon is sitting on like day-old squabs. Y'all saw her squab the other day. The second one is actually hatched now. If that were a racing homer, I might consider racing it home to those squabs. A lot of times you'll do it right before they hatch. The pigeon knows they're about to hatch and is trying to get home as fast as possible. And as long as you don't send both of them to race, you can do that okay. if you send the hen and she's gone for a day, a cock will usually take care of eggs and squabs for a couple of days before deserting them. So you've got a couple of days. Same goes for if you race the cock, the hen will take care of them all by herself for a couple of days. So that won't really hurt anything too bad. Or you could fly them home to, some people will fly a hen home when she needs to lay, so she'll try and come home as quick as possible to lay that egg. I would not advise that. They may wind up laying in the basket on the way to race. First off, you wouldn't want a pregnant woman trying to run a marathon. I mean, just think about it like that. She's got extra weight, extra bulk in there. I'm sure it's uncomfortable. I just wouldn't do that. She may wind up just sitting around with her feathers all ruffled up, trying to pass that egg instead of trying to race home. But some people will do that. So that's basically what that is, the natural hood, the widowed hood, and the double widowed hood. And I'm sure there's other systems too. This pigeon is on my foot again. Can I help you? This is Charles. He likes to ride around on my foot. And y'all saw Bentley was with me yesterday. Where's Bentley? There's Bentley right there. Bentley was hanging out with me yesterday at the club. But nothing new has happened in here since yesterday evening when I did the first part of my video, except that her second squab is hatched. So, suppose I'll see if that satinette will trap in now. I'm going to have to be headed to church soon, so let me grab some food and we'll see what happens. Flock. There's the satinette. There it goes flying around. Looks pretty when it flies. Now I don't know where it's going. We surprised it, I guess. Open up the trap. Oh, didn't even go through the trap. It came in over my shoulder. Oh well, it's in the loft. That's all that really matters. I think it'll do fine with trapping in. But, yeah. So, there you go. With fancy birds, you don't have to do too much to get them trap trained. They don't like to fly all that much, so you don't worry about them flying away too much. But again, I wouldn't try with homers and rollers the way I did it with that satinette. I would be able to look around, which I'll show you all what that is. But, thanks for watching, guys. Be sure to like and subscribe for more videos. Take care.